and welcome to Thornton.com. Of course, we have, shall we say, quite a long show tonight. We're hoping to be joined by Lembit Öpik very shortly in the next half an hour or so. But of course, he may well be stuck in traffic. Now, there is a very long show planned for this evening. And of course, if you come across to Thornton.com, you can see all of it, because there are some videos that we cannot show you. But there are many, many topics that we have to tackle tonight. Absolutely shed load. So without further ado, let's get started. And the very first one that we have to talk about, of course, and the main sort of issue is going to be the Ukraine war. Now, we're going to be talking about the killing fields of the Donbass in the next 15, 20 minutes. For simply, there is all sorts of craziness going on. And of course, many shall we say, different reports of different things going on. We're going to take you through all of them, tell you what is the truth and what isn't. And of course, we've been very nicely boosted by people from abroad who have turned around and said that we are a good place to follow. So if you agree with them, by all means do. Now, the first man that we need to talk about tonight is a gentleman called Konstantin Garish, or Galish. Let's get his name right. His name is Konstantin Galish. He is a Ukrainian crypto magnate. Now, he's been handling a lot of accounts for a lot of different people, and he's been doing very, very well indeed in terms of, shall we say, getting all sorts of things for his own personal abilities, for his own personal, shall we say, gratification. Now, what is the problem with Konstantin Garish? Galish, I should say. I keep getting his name wrong. He's been found dead in his Lamborghini of a gunshot wound at the age of 32. Now, this gun is registered to Konstantin Galish or Garnish, whichever you like to say. But the fact is, the main thing, whether I can pronounce his name right or not, is that he is now dead. And of course, this poor so-and-so, shall we say, Galish, handled funds for Ukraine's intelligence payroll. He donated military aid to them by the bucket load. And of course, as I say, died of a gunshot wound after the crypto crash, after obviously Trump's statement. Now, if you think that that guy who was doing lots of dodgy deals, he might have been doing dodgy deals for the SBU and various, but he was certainly handling a lot of important Ukrainian oligarchs, shall we say, bits and pieces for them. They took a huge plunge when crypto went through the floor over the weekend. And of course, he's now either committed suicide or had suicide bolstered upon him, shot himself 15 times in the head and reloaded. Sean Murphy.
Yeah, I think it's the latter, Warren.
I think it might be as well.
The guy who had everything going for him and knew how to do the things, his Lamborghini and everything he had going for him. I think he's an unlikely candidate to top himself, isn't he?
It does seem that way. We're just going to bring Lembit in, because Lembit is on his way in here. And of course we've got to say that some of the stuff that has gone on here is quite crazy. Let's just get Lembit into the show, because I'm sure he's going to have something to say about this. Let's just promote Lembit into panelist. But of course, there was a huge stock market crash. Hopefully, we can get Lembit on in a second. We're just trying to promote him as we speak. And of course, let's hope he's able to do that. So let's carry on with this for a second then. This guy certainly was, shall we say, one of these people who was right up there in terms of looking after monetary aid or crypto for various, shall we say, Ukrainian oligarchs, and also rumored to have ties to the Ukrainian SBU, but he definitely did handle funds for Ukraine's intelligence payroll and donated millions to military aid. Suddenly, he winds up with a gunshot to the head. Now, we don't know how many times he was shot in the head, but he has apparently committed suicide after the stock market crash. We welcome Lembit Öpik to the show. Good evening, Lembit. How the devil are we? Oh, you need to turn your mic on, buddy.
Thank you. Schoolboy error. I was saying I'm better than the man you've just been talking about.
Yes, he's apparently very unwell.
Yeah.
Just an ordinary stock market crash, like 1929. The guy's climbed into his Lamborghini and shot himself in the head.
Yeah. Seems unlikely to me. If you've got a Lamborghini to start with, you're probably not going to be that suicidal. But maybe I'm wrong. There was a guy who had huge hopes for running a business in my old constituency, and he did shoot himself. Never really completely understood why, but he did shoot himself, and so it does happen. But the problem with it is, Warren, if you look at the pattern, so many people seem to die mysteriously in this Ukrainian environment, and let's not pretend. Everyone knows Ukraine's corrupt. Everybody knows it. That we know that it's the powerhouse for illegal arms smuggling across the world now. Well, what do? You turn a blind eye to it, or you actually say, well, it's more circumstantial evidence that some people are getting uncomfortably close to certain corruption that we're not supposed to know about. I favor the latter, but only because it feels like that's the answer. I haven't got the evidence.
No,
but just look at it's all mysterious. These three Ukrainian young men who attacked Keir Starmer's property. The guy in Spain who was shot dead after leaving his kids at school. You add it all together, you join the dots, and it does make a picture.
It does, absolutely. It always reminds me of that guy who manages to cut his head off while shaving. It's very much along those lines.
Yeah.
One of those, where he suffered from 4 gunshot wounds to the head and he committed suicide. We had no idea. We're just joshing here, but it does seem that though this seems to happen quite a lot. There is some stuff.
I'm just going to add, it does, and basically, I don't want to get into the world of conspiracy theory either, because it's possible to go too far. We did go to the moon. The Earth is not flat, and some people really do kill themselves. In fact, half of the deaths by gunshot in America are suicides. The other half are homicides. So it can happen. But the problem with Ukraine is, it's very hard to understand how some of the people at the top of the political food chain got so rich. If you look at what their incomes and salaries are and expenses, how can you afford all those properties? And so, and then you begin to get very suspicious about this. And as I say, it's not really even a secret, is it, Warren, that country has got an absolutely abysmal rate of misbehavior, really, political misbehavior.
Yes, we'll say corruption, falling out of windows, and all sorts of things along those lines. And just very briefly, while we're on that, we'll get into this more. But of course, after Donald Trump spoke about China and everything else, the stock market took a huge dive over the weekend, including crypto and many other currencies fell a bit through the floor or fell by the wayside. But when we talk about corruption, Lembit, we have to talk about corruption because we do that a fair bit here. Of course, once all the crypto and everything else and the collapse and everything else went through the floor, we found out, of course, that somebody had made about 70 odd million, made over 70 million half an hour before that had actually happened. Now, let's just show China's response to the semiconductors export ban, which is exactly what was hoisted upon them by America, was to cut off the use of the rare mineral or rare earths, so that exactly you couldn't get your hands on too many of them. Now, America loses this battle every day and twice on Sunday. China holds, pardon the pun, the trump card here. One stroke of the pen. Then we have the idiotic dual use of goods to Russia. Chips in washing machines, PlayStation games, controllers and everything else. But we do find out that when we get back to the crypto, somebody in the Trump administration, and we can't find out who, we're desperately trying to do that, made 72 million in shorting these stocks and everything else. And this is a horrible thing, Lembit. 72 million they made half an hour before, of course, that, shall we say, was, how can I put this nicely? Before that was made public is the nice way of saying it, Lembit.
Well, it's pretty obvious what happened. I mean, the man who was the last person to represent Montgomery for my old constituency before they changed the boundaries. He was a Conservative MP, and he put a bet on about the date of the next election. This became problematic because he was also the private secretary of the Prime Minister. And that seemed a little bit awkward. And he didn't just lose his job, but he also lost the money from the bet because it was regarded as insider trading.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. The thing is, when you can make 70 million because you've essentially got a time machine and you know what's going to happen half an hour in the future, that's going to be tempting, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And of course, we all have to ask, don't we? And I'm not being funny here, how Nancy Pelosi became so rich. I think it should be that anybody, I mean, you can get loads of people to do it for you, so I suppose you can't really stop it, Lembit. But anybody caught insider trading on government contracts in America should be booted out of the government, shouldn't they? I mean, that is insider trading. If it was the stock market, you'd be done for it.
Two ways of looking at it. Either it's all allowable, or nothing's allowable. You can envisage a world in which all this insider trading is allowed, and you say, well, that gives them a vested interest to do a good job of running the country. I don't think many people will go down that path. So the alternative is that it shouldn't be allowed at all. Of course, we do know it goes on. There's huge scandals about personal protective equipment in the United Kingdom, which all looks quite insider trading. We know that there's massive vested interest in the in renewable sector, telling us there's a climate emergency because they get tons of money. So there are lots of situations where this goes on. And we were talking about it before, the arms trade. What a hand-rubbingly attractive venture it is to convince people of limited intellectual quality like Keir Starmer to throw billions at sponsoring a war which can't be won. They don't care. They're making the profit. Ka-ching. So this isn't unique to America. My feeling, of course, is that if you're smart enough, you'll get away with it, because what I'll do is I'll say, well, Warren, I'm in the government here in the United Kingdom, and I can't be seen to be doing anything. And the people know that you know me, Warren. So if I can give you 2 million, can you just wash it?
Yes,
and then we can get back to the money in 5 years' time when no one's watching.
Just go and short that stock for me. It had, and of course, this came half an hour before Donald Trump's post on Truth Social. Just been learned that China has taken an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade in sending an extremely hostile letter to the world, stating that they were going to, effective from November the 1st, 2025, impose large-scale export controls on virtually every product they make, and some not even made by them. This affects all countries without exception. Obviously, a plan devised by them years ago. Here we go with the conspiracy theories. It's absolutely unheard of in international trade and a moral disgrace in dealing with other nations, based on the fact that China has taken this unprecedented position, speaking only for the USA and not other nations we were similarly threatened, starting November the 1st, 2025, or sooner, depending on any further actions or changes taken by China. The United States will impose a tariff of 100% on China, over and above any tariff they are currently paying. Also on November the 1st, we will impose export controls on any and all critical software. It is impossible to believe China would have taken such an action, but they have, and the rest is history. Thank you for the attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump. Did he seriously expect to do what he did to the Chinese and not expect some sort of reaction?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. We know the pattern now. Donald Trump, the man who's probably making a separate fortune on sales of his book, The Art of the Deal, will lash out, make threats, negotiate, withdraw the threats, and he's willing to do it at the top flight in international politics. He's willing to do it with Vladimir Putin, the premier of Russia. He's certainly willing to do it with European Union countries and the whole of the EU. And of course, they'll do it with Xi Jinping as well, and with Kim Jong-un. No one is exempt. And, you know, that is actually a quality, because if you can't predict what your opposite number will do in a negotiation, it gives that opposite number a lot of power. I would suspect that he will expect to do a deal, and then he'll claim it as a victory. The fact is, a couple of thoughts. First one is, China has the hands that built America. As with the UK, we've exported a very large proportion of our manufacturing to China. We're not going to have a war with the country that built our weapons. You know, it's ridiculous in a way. Second thing, and so therefore, I think it's saber rattling, because China refusing to send us goods, although it would really hurt China, would cripple the West, totally cripple the West. No cars, no cheap clothes, no mobile phones, make the list, everything. We'll be rubbing the sticks together. And the second thing is, you used the word unprecedented. Well, my TV station is called Unprecedented because it's the most overused word in current affairs reportage. That's why we chose it. Every time somebody uses the word unprecedented, you hear it 40 times a day on the mainstream media. I want people to think of us. It's all precedented. It's all happened before. It just hasn't been noticed because Donald Trump doesn't play cloak and dagger. He does it in the public eye. And he makes unthought through comments, knowing that he'll be able to course correct if it goes wrong. I like that.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And talking about that, we're just going to give you a heads up here. Now, we played this yesterday, but this is in 2017. This is Lindsey Graham and Senator John McCain literally telling the Ukrainians in 2017 this.
I admire the fact that you will fight for your homeland.
Я захоплююсь тим, що ви боретеся за свою батьківщину.
Your fight is our fight.
Ваша боротьба – це наша боротьба.
2017 will be the year of offense.
Рік 2017 рік буде ріком нападу.
All of us will go back to Washington and we will push the case against Russia.
Ми всі повернемося до Вашингтону і ми будемо відстоювати санкції проти Росії.
Enough of a Russian aggression.
Досить вже російської агресії.
It is time for them to pay a heavier price.
Час вже, щоб вони заплатили важчу ціну.
Our fight is not with the Russian people, but with Putin.
Ми боремося не з російським народом, але з Путіним.
Our promise to you is to take your cause to Washington.
Наша обіцянка – це те, що ми вашу боротьбу доведемо до Вашингтона.
Inform the American people of your bravery.
Проінформуємо американський народ про вашу відважність.
And make the case against Putin to the world.
І покажемо про докази проти Путіна усьому світу.
I believe you will win. I am convinced you will win, and we will do everything we can to provide you with what you need to win.
Я вірю в те, що ви виграєте, переможете. Я переконаний в тому, що ви переможете, і ми вам допоможемо всіма можливими засобами.
And we have succeeded not because of equipment, but because of your courage.
Ви успішні не через обладнання, але
So, first of all, when they turn around and say that Russia wasn't provoked, please remember they said 2017 is the year of our offensive, speaking to the Ukrainians. We went back and did some checking on the actual timing of that video, and we found out that 4 days after that visit from Lindsey Graham, suddenly the stocks of all the military-industrial companies, military-industrial complex companies, went up, and there was, shall we say, some excess trading that went on, obviously, before the announcement of the weapons, Lembit. So this goes back as far as 2017, people doing insider trading.
Well, it goes back to probably Roman times. I think this has always happened. There are people who are principled. I, perhaps by accident, was principled because I didn't realize the potential to monetize my parliamentary career. And I would be much better off if I'd realized, and I could probably have done it with the degree of probity, but I just didn't realize. Had no idea how much people are willing to pay for that kind of influence. No idea. So it's not new. In fact, I think it was probably an absolute gold mine particularly at times like the Vietnam War and World War II and so on. So much money. There's a great phrase. It's called the Maverick's motto: "Let chaos reign, then reign in chaos," and that's what seems to happen. So on the first part of it, yeah, well, there's lots of people going to make a lot of money. The great thing about a war is you destroy the things you buy.
Yes.
You blow up your weapons by definition, and you need more. And the second thing is how wrong he was in what he said. And it's interesting. He said that there was going to be an offensive in 2017, which indicates that everything Putin said is right. He's sick of the aggression on his doorstep, the broken promises from 1990. We talked about that before. Not 1 inch to the east, NATO promised to the Russians at the time, Mikhail Gorbachev at the time. So it sticks in a lot of different ways. But when you look at all of that, it's quite obvious why Russia has continued its offensive, because it's had enough. And that wasn't exactly a secret video, was it? Of course, you're completely wrong. It'll all be over by Christmas, they said. Yeah, well, sure. That's what they said in Iraq. And they never didn't do anything from that either.
Yes, God bless them. They're always spot on, aren't they? Let's have a little look at this, because we're going down the road of a couple of told you so's here, but it is fresh information, so it is relevant. Russia's game-changing missile tactics that is outsmarting Western weapons. Well, it's taken Bloomberg and many others a long time to get there. Ukrainian officials admit that for the moment they have no answer to it. Now, 2 years ago, Lembit, we were pointing out, and the Chinese were very nice, very, very nice to us the other day when they pointed out that we've been saying it since 2023, that the Patriot missile systems were absolutely hopeless. They were no good when they were being used by Israel to try and take out Scud missiles. And we said in 2023, despite getting absolutely slaughtered for it, that these would not be a game changer in any way, shape or form. Given that the Russian missile technology was much more advanced than they thought it was. It has now been revealed, Lembit, that the Patriot missile system, and I'm going to give you some figures here, which are going to blow your mind, or if they don't blow your mind, they should. Very, very simply, when we're talking about the missile systems and everything that goes there, of course, we have many, shall we say, amounts to tell you about. Now, so here we go. After 2 years of telling you how ineffective the Patriot missile system given to Ukraine is, they're finally admitting it. The propaganda from the West was very effective, with all sorts of so-called experts hailing it as the latest game changer. Now for the truth that we've been trying to get people to notice for 2 years. The cost of the Patriot missile system varies based on the type of configuration, but here are some key figures. Okay, so the PAC-3 missile, approximately 3.7 million per missile. Upgraded PAC-3 MSE interceptor costs around 7 million each. Bare bones Patriot battery costs around 360 million. 2 batteries estimated at 8.5 billion. A recent contract, a 9.8 billion deal for nearly 2,000 missiles, and a newly produced battery costs around 1.1 billion, which includes 400 million for the system and 690 million for the missiles. Now, the effectiveness, depending on what you are going to use it for, we told you 2 years ago it was not able to shoot down many of the missiles that it claimed to, and its effectiveness was around 5 to 8%, depending on what it was shooting at, mainly Shahed drones, which are the bargain basement drones compared to other drones or missiles. Now, the numbers are in from the Pentagon, and our sources were correct. The effectiveness of the Patriot missile system shooting down the sky bombardment from Russia is 6%. So far, 7 systems and 22 batteries have been obliterated. They have 2 working systems left and 6 batteries. Now, this is direct from our Pentagon source, and of course, many other people now, like the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal, and of course, Bloomberg, are reporting this, Lembit.
Well, it's pretty grim, 6%. I'm really surprised it's that bad, because although I know the S-400 system, which is the Russian equivalent, is far better, at least I believe that's the case, far more effective system. I would have thought that the Patriot system was quite good, because we used to get all these pictures from the Iraq War where the Patriots were shooting down the baddies. That's what we were told. I can't understand how I actually almost doubt what you're saying, and I'll tell you why. I can't understand how they could have covered it up for so long. If 94% of things get through, and also how is it then that I'm challenging you on this because you'll know the answer. How is it then that the overwhelming majority of these budget drones do get shot down? That Russia's sending.
So very simply, with the budget drones, it's quite easy. I mean, you can use normal gunfire. You can use normal artillery shells. The Shahed drones don't travel that fast. In fact, they're not massively difficult to shoot down. The Garand drones or the Garand 2s are a much bigger, shall we say, problem. And of course, they could never shoot down, and they've never been able to shoot down any of the missiles that we've been talking about. The odd one they've been able to shoot down, but not the Iskander, the improved Iskanders, certainly not the Kinjals, and they've not been able to touch them whatsoever. And of course, Russia have ramped those up, and they've also ramped up, shall we say, the defence, the capabilities of those. Let's have see if we've got one. Just if we've got one here, we can have a look. And of course, they've been completely overwhelmed. This is Odessa yesterday. They were hit with Kinjals. This is the port of Odessa. And of course, if you remember yesterday, we showed you just how much of this stuff was actually coming through from France into Romania, getting ready to make a charge for Odessa should the Russians go for Odessa. You can hear normal batteries there firing off missiles and shells and everything, trying to put a blanket over. But basically, for shooting anything down, Lembit, they have a real problem, and they've never been able to do it. I don't know if you remember, but many moons ago, they said they'd shot down one of these Kinzhals, and literally you had Vladimir Klitschko standing next to a 500-pound bomb, trying to pass it off as a Kinzhal missile, which was quite entertaining. Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah.
How fast do these fellas travel?
With the Kinzhal, that can travel anywhere up to 5 to 8 times the speed of sound.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to get that down with a pea shooter.
No,
I mean, that's tricky. And if you were to think about the number of these that they're dropping onto Ukraine, how often do they use them? I bet you they're expensive.
Yes. Well, let's give you a little bit of a heads up on that. So a few months back, we turned around and said that we were getting to the point where we were spoken to the people in Russia who were very, very close to the people who make these things. And they were saying that within a month or two, they would get it up from 500 a day to be able to launch anywhere up to 1,000 a day and 50 missiles a day. We are now at that point where they can launch 1,000 Garand drones a day, and they can launch at least anywhere between 50 to 100 missiles every single day of the week, Lembit.
How big are the drones? How much do they carry?
The Garand drones certainly above your head, so they'd be over around about 7 foot tall. And the wingspan, they're like, if you like, small planes. So they'd be able to carry a very, very heavy payload indeed.
Like a ton?
Yeah, they'd be able to take at least half a ton of explosives.
Okay. That's a lot of firepower.
It is. Yeah.
I'm not laughing at the death that goes with it. I'm laughing at the utter implausibility of the claims made by the West. The now apparently extinct coalition of the willing. You never hear much about that anymore.
No.
The continuing and frankly embarrassing saber rattling by the government in UK and across other city governments across Europe. But what's laughable about it is no one's going to beat the Russians. You can't beat the Russians. You can't. No. It's impossible. You could actually triple the expenditure on the West side. And then all that Russia would do is ramp it up a bit because they've got lots of spare capacity.
Yes, and of course, we've been talking about the ramping up of the missiles, and we are getting on to another I told you so now. We have quite conclusively, and in fact, everybody is now printing that, of course, the Patriot systems are 6% effective, which is absolutely crazy when you consider the cost that we've just told you about for these systems. Unbelievable. And of course, when we're now going to talk about something that everybody has been turning around and going, no, it's not possible, it's not possible, it's not happening. Well, it is, and this is the fact that the Ukrainians are now being targeted on the railways. Now, we said about a week ago that we believe we're entering a new stage of the war where the Russians are going to start, because they have all these weapons at their disposal, they're going to start not just targeting the energy infrastructure and obviously UAV drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, as they're called, these drone factories, but they were also going to start targeting the railways, which were the main source of Ukraine delivering men. Because you remember, when they surround an area, they shut off the road so you can't get in. So the only way, basically, is to literally get the stuff in there by locomotive or by train. And they have now started over the last month or so targeting the rail network. Now, what sort of impact does that have? Well, that means when you can't get them there by rail, you've got to send them there by road. And I'm going to show you this area now. Of course, this is Krasnomayorsk. Let's have a little look. And this is just the start of the pounding that Krasnomayorsk is starting to get. They are not able to get other weapons systems in there. We've got a couple of videos on this, so we're going to take you through a couple of these because it is very, very important that we show you what is going on here. So, now, Russia are able to fly drones through the city centre without any problems whatsoever. None at all.
Is that what you're trying to illustrate with that video? Because that wasn't really clear what else we were looking at.
Exactly that. And while we're talking about the railways, there's sort of a double-barreled thing here, Lembit, that shows that the aerial abilities of the Ukrainians are non-existent. And here's some hits from an area that we told you about. Now, we've been, shall we say, trolled left, right and centre by the Ukrainians, saying this is not true, this is not true. It is absolutely true. We've got the pictures here for you. Now, just outside of Pokrovsk and in between Pokrovsk and Minograd, this sort of thing is taking place, where they, instead of being able to move everything by railway, they've been moving it by road. And when you move it by road, this is the outcome. This is in between Pokrovsk and Minograd. We've just shown you some of the pictures of some of the destroyed area there. Let's have a little look what happened when they tried to get all this equipment in by road. Now, this isn't like weeks and weeks old. This is a couple of days. This has happened over the last week. And literally, as they've tried to make it along these roads and to get them into Minograd and everywhere else, as you can see, there's the truck that we just showed you being blown up in the top left-hand corner. As you can see it, as they zoom out there, there's the truck that was destroyed. And there we go. You can see the roadway there. I'm just going to pause that for 2 seconds. You can see the roadway there. Let's have a little look here. And very, very simply, we've been copying a lot of nonsense, shall we say, from Ukrainian channels saying, oh, this is completely AI and it's not true. We've actually geolocated the place for you. So there we go. There's the crossroads that we originally showed you that is absolutely full of all these vehicles. And we've got one more for you just to absolutely show 100% that we're not lying to you. You can actually see the road there and you can see all the equipment here just below the horizon of those two roadways that we just showed you. So very, very simply, as I say, that is outside of a place called Minorad. So it just goes to show the impact, Lembit. One, that they haven't got any air defences, and two, that these vehicles are being absolutely destroyed. Now they can no longer be sent by rail.
The question, the obvious question, viewers will be asking this maybe, is this: what percentage of the war material on the Ukrainian side is being destroyed? Those are very dramatic pictures, but if 95% is getting through, then that's tolerable attrition. If 95% is being destroyed, then it's utterly hopeless.
It's simply not getting through. So let's take you into that then, because this is the area where all that was destroyed, which you can see is just above Pokrovsk. And of course, Minorad is here. And of course, as we zoom in a little bit on this picture, we will do that. As you can see from Minorad, the Russians are beginning to creep in. There is no air defense whatsoever, and they tried to bring this in on roads, and the roads, of course, have been, shall we say, cut off. And of course, they tried to come down this main road here. This is the junction where they were, and of course, we've got Pokrovsk just here. Now, of course, they are saying that only 14% of all the men and the machines that were sent have got to Pokrovsk, and of course, Pokrovsk is now beginning to suffer. And of course, this is going to make sure that things collapse a lot quicker, Lembit. And we've got a closer map here for you to show you what's happening. And as you can see, when you geolocate the roads, this is the road that they actually came along here. You can see this road. This is the road they came along, and this is a junction that would lead into Pokrovsk. And of course, it was just taken out by the Russians. And that's the area that we're looking at. Now, it's getting even worse in those two cities, Minorad and Pokrovsk. Minorad, they're starting to creep in even closer. This is the latest map from the last 2 hours. And as you can see, where we showed the green area before, we are now seeing this yellow area, which is where the Russians are currently fighting. And as you can see, this is Minorad just up here. So this is pretty much bang up to date, Lembit. And of course, there are many mercenary soldiers that are being caught in the areas just outside of these areas. We're going to show you something now. If you are of a, shall we say, horrible disposition, don't watch this. This is a Colombian mercenary literally being hunted in the woods just outside by a drone. Now, that is Colombian mercenaries, and there are many of them in Minorad. And of course, you will forgive that. We obviously had to we just got the video as it was. But of course, we've got Colombian mercenaries who are dying in great numbers there. In fact, they're the most killed after Polish. Polish are in second place, and French mercs are in third place, would you believe, in terms of getting destroyed in the area. Also inside Pokrovsk, there are many, many casualties now inside Pokrovsk, Lembit, and many cut off there. This is just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure how much worse it can get. Essentially, this is just a turkey shoot now. What I mean by turkey shoot is the Russians can just pick off anyone, anywhere, anytime. Ukraine is so defeated. They're so lost. Makes you wonder what's motivating them to continue. We were talking about corruption earlier on. Is it corruption? Is it the massive profits that the establishment are making? Nothing's been proved. That's a theory. Another possibility, of course, is that the line that we're putting forward is the propaganda, that Russia is on its knees, that it's in desperate trouble. But there's nothing in any source I've ever seen that suggests that. And so what we're now seeing is Russia carrying out the inference of what Vladimir Putin suggested would happen. He didn't say it explicitly, but when he saw Trump, he said, give me these parts and I'll stop the fighting. Zelensky said, no way, Jose. And Putin said, okay, well, we'll do it the painful way then. And that's what's happening.
Yes. And I think, when you sort of look at what's going on, Lembit, and we've got some more videos of just how bad it is. And of course, let's have a look. This is the US 133 in.
Fuck.
Of course, these drones don't need to destroy these. All they need to do is disable them. And then, of course, they're very, very easy pickings indeed for the people who are operating the artillery, because they can zone in on them very, very quickly and, of course, start taking people out. Now, they did mine a bridge, the Ukrainians, in Seversk, as you can see here. Now, there are lots and lots of mines placed around the central pillars to stop the Russians coming over the bridge. Well, the Russians didn't bother coming over the bridge. They just decided, since you've used the mines, since you've mined it, all we need to do is use a drone. Have a look at this. Now, the problem that we have is we have all the idiots out there who are pushing this war, Lembit, saying, oh, well, Russia are not making any advances and this and that and the other. The Russians blew up that bridge to keep them in Seversk, not to let them out. They don't need to use that bridge. That should tell you something, Lembit.
So that's a bit of an own goal, isn't it?
It's massive.
I take it that railway line was being used by Ukraine, as you described before, in order to supply
yes
the Ukrainian military. Didn't they do that calculation?
I don't think they did. I don't think they did. And here's the problem that we have, Lembit, with this is, of course, people are still pushing this narrative. Oh, the Russians haven't moved very far forward. They don't need to. What they do is they hit you. They then wait for you to send reinforcements. Now, I've got the perfect example of this. There was a big push by the Russians only a short while ago in a place called Dobrofilia, which is above Pokrovsk. Now, very, very simply, they pushed behind the Russian lines. I think you were on the show with me at the time when we were talking about this massive breakthrough. And then literally they sent lots and lots of Ukrainian soldiers. The Russians retreated. They refilled those trenches out in the open, I might say, and then they got absolutely smashed. Now, we do have a video for you that shows you the nonsense of this and what happens and how bad it can get for you, because it really is that bad. And people will go, oh, it's not that bad, is it? Blast waves kill, and they kill indiscriminately. I just want you to have a look at this. Have a look at the blast waves, not so much the explosions. Have a look at the blast waves. If you are anywhere near the center of those blast waves, you are dead. Now, anybody who's been on the wrong side of a blast wave, Lembit, will tell you that literally it can pick you up and throw you against a wall. You can't try and get it across to people just how devastating they are.
What were they actually trying to blow up there?
They were just blowing up a line of Ukrainian artillery and military there. So basically, it was an arms depot and Ukrainian soldiers that were there. And of course, anything within that blast radius is going to get absolutely wrecked.
Yeah, okay. Well, the Russians have many different ways of destroying the Ukrainians. quite expensive, I suppose, for Russia to keep doing this, but it's bearing macabre dividends because the Ukrainians are doing so badly that even foolish amateur politicians like Keir Starmer, by amateur I mean a man who clearly doesn't have a grasp of international politics, let alone military strategy.
Yes.
They've stopped talking about it, and the mainstream media don't really talk about it anymore. They're too interested in talking about Gaza now, and so Ukraine has dropped off the agenda because it's an inconvenient truth, I think. Meanwhile, I don't know what you think. You'll be much better connected than me to insert the number, but I'm guessing hundreds at least of Ukrainians are dying every day, and just the fact that they're not on television means nothing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is around about 50, anywhere between 15 and 1600 a day dying. Just to give you a real big shout now, Kupiansk is almost done. People are sort of talking about it and thinking, oh no, it's not going to be that bad. The grey area is where they are currently fighting on the left-hand side of Kupiansk. There is fighting going on there at the moment, and literally Russia are that close to capturing the whole left-hand side. We can see the Oskil River just coming down here, if you can follow the cursor, that little grey line going up there. That is the Oskil River. They are almost completely taking over the left-hand bank of the side of the Oskil River. Then they can just literally park up there and pound the right-hand side. I don't expect Kupiansk to survive till Christmas, Lembit.
How important is it?
Very much so. And the reason being that Kharkiv is only around 60 kilometers away. Now, they have North Korean guns, self-propelled artillery guns, that can fire shells over 60 kilometers. The 60 kilometers is a range. And once they take over Kupiansk, they can park those there and just pound Kharkiv all day long.
Question then. Can you just explain what a self-propelled gun is?
So it's a self-propelled, if anybody's ever watched the show before, the self-propelled North Korean artillery guns that they've made, basically what you can do is you can load them up and you can just leave them and literally press a button, and you don't need to man them. They will automatically load the shell and just keep pounding away. Now, they had, we saw 18 of those being transferred to the front line around Kupiansk, or near to the front line of Kupiansk. And that, as I say, they don't need to be manned. All they need to do is be reloaded and let them pound away. And literally, they can fire. They can take a battery of 24 shells, and literally, if you've got 18 of them firing 24 shells, Lembit, and you just need to keep reloading them every so often. That is one hell. I will get a picture of one up for you. I did put one up before, and I've mentioned them many times beforehand. Lembit, your thoughts on this, because they can just pound them.
The one word that comes to mind is carnage. Just rivers of Ukrainian blood needlessly spilled as Russia takes by force what Zelensky refused to give without it. That's the problem. We're talking about these numbers, 1,600 dead, mainly men, a day. 1,600 ruined families and relationships and children's lives. This is the price of the vanity of people like those Americans in 2017 saying, oh, we're going to win. So obviously not correct. What I feel is sadness. I feel sadness because there's only going to be one outcome with this, and that's the essentially unconditional surrender, though it won't be described as such, unconditional surrender of Ukraine to Russian terms. And we know the terms already. Those three things that they want, which we've talked about many times before: denazification, demilitarized zone, and a non-NATO Ukraine. We know it's not a secret, but the cost in lives is heartbreaking.
Yeah, there we are. There's a picture of the self-propelled gun that they can, and those literally what they can fire will go over 60 kilometers. So around about 60 kilometers, so they can park it on the edge of Kupiansk and just keep pounding away. So if you imagine 24 of those, 18 of those banging out 24 shells at a time, you can do the math. There's no doubt what will happen. So hopefully now we put a picture of one up for you. Lee Williams.
Is that around about 45 miles, 60 kilometers?
Yep, round about that.
Yep.
Yep.
Just it's more like it's about 38 miles to be put down.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, very good.
It's a long, long way.
Yeah. But once Kupiansk falls, of course, they're able to take the furthest edges of Kupiansk. That's probably why they're going for the left-hand side of Kupiansk first, Lembit, so they can get stationed and get ready to start hitting from there.
Just a couple of thoughts there. When you say it can fire 24 shells,
yep.
How long does it take to fire those 24 shells?
Literally, they can load them inside a minute.
They can load them.
Load and fire. Load and fire. Yeah.
So if I had one of these things, I could put 24 shells in 1 minute.
You can put 24 shells in, and within 24 minutes, your gun will be empty.
Oh, so it's 1 a minute, yeah. Okay.
1 a minute, yep.
How much is the explosive? How heavy is the explosive?
It can carry up to a half a ton warhead.
So you could dump 12 tons of high explosive.
Yes.
In 24 minutes.
Yes.
Roughly 12 tons every half an hour per gun. That's 24 tons an hour times 18. Let's say you're not using them all at once. Let's say you use 10. So that's 240 tons an hour. Yeah. There's not going to be anything left. It'll look like Gaza.
Yes, I mean the thing is as well, Lembit, is you can. I mean, this is why when people say, you look at Gaza and then you look at the cities in Ukraine. There's no way that if the Russians wanted to kill everybody and everybody in there, they could do so quite comfortably. I mean, for instance, have a look at this for a second.
Ебать!
Now, this is Ukraine's response. Is to bomb shopping centres in Donetsk. There's no military there whatsoever, Lembit. Can you possibly give me any reason why these idiots would do this sort of thing?
There's total desperation because they've lost. And they're like a drowning man holding on to anything and anyone to try to get purchase. Let's face it. If this is what they're doing, they'll say, of course, the Russians have done that to us. But yes. It seems to me the Russians are trying primarily to deal with military targets. That's my impression. But with Ukraine, I just feel that they're absolutely desperate. And as their campaign sinks into oblivion, falls off the international media, loses American funding, and has to deal with fourth-rate politicians in Europe, they're just lashing out.
Yes. And I think also we have to highlight that there's a group out there, Lembit, of course, Kaya Kallis and should we say Kinzinger, the US Senator, is a big fan of a group called NATO, or the North Atlantic Fellow Organization or whatever. And they fundraise a lot for Azov. Now, the Russians are taking great delight in, they buy vehicles, they buy kit for these Azov battalions. Now, they take great delight in finding these sponsored vehicles and these sponsored units and destroying them. Have a little look at this. And as you can clearly see, it's got NATO on the side. Now, they always put a sticker on these vehicles whenever they're sponsored. Now, we know that the NATO sponsored the Azov Battalion, which is the neo-Nazi brigade. So, of course, the Russians take great delight in hunting these down. And as soon as they find them, they destroy them as quickly even if there's nobody in them, so they can't be used again, Lembit.
Yes, well, from any angle, this is a lost war. It couldn't really be more one-sided, could it?
No.
It couldn't be more asymmetrical. It's asymmetrical warfare at its worst. And here's the irony. Russia can scale its offensive actions as much as it wants. It's only really offensive now. There's no defense required particularly. Maybe it may be internally to Russia. I still lament the destruction of the Tu-95 Bear aircraft because they're incredibly impressive aircraft. But that was quite a devastating hit by Ukraine. But it took them 18 months to set it up, as far as I know. So they can have these public relations wins. I suppose that's what they would consider them to be. But meanwhile, Russia is doing the unglamorous grunt work of moving forwards. I'm teaching my 8-year-old, to play chess, and she wants me to teach her tricks and strategies and tactics. And it's a good example, chess, because in chess, the game's not glamorous. What you're doing is trying to gain territory, and you're trying to have a consistent increase in advantage territorially in terms of the value of your pieces by taking the others. And that's what's happening here with Russia. The Ukrainians are treating it like some game of roulette, a ridiculous incursion into the Kursk region. Complete gamblers' foolish hope, all of it lost now, and they do these grand bets, basically, like somebody who puts $1,000 on 36 on the roulette table, hoping it'll pay off, and once in a while they win, but overall they'll be down at the end of the night. Meanwhile, the other side, the Russians, they don't treat this as roulette at all. They treat this as chess. Spot the weakness, bring their defense up, work up the pawns, the bishops, the rook, the knight, protect their king. And if one person's playing roulette and the other person's playing chess, there's going to be only one outcome.
I think you're absolutely right. There's a couple of other things that we need to talk about this, because Tristan Tate, brother of Andrew Tate, has come out and said, keep sending money to Ukraine, guys. They're literally here in Bucharest driving G-Wagons and partying. My friends own the nightclubs. It's all Ukrainians doing the bottle shows. I wish I were joking. So that just goes to show you that their own, shall we say, the sons and daughters of the really important people in Ukraine are nowhere near the front line. And of course, there's all sorts of corruption going on. That supermarket we showed you that they hit. That's the inside of the supermarket that Ukraine went and walloped. That is inside the Donbass, of course, in Donetsk once again. And of course, we're just going to keep seeing more and more on that. Ursula von der Leyen is turning around and saying that she wants to take another 140 billion out of the Russian assets, having already stolen the lion's share of it. And of course, they're trying to convince you that, of course, there is nothing of the sort that's been taken already. But just literally, they did the math on this. The 330 billion was only producing 1.5 million in interest a year. And they have spent far, far, far more than that. So when it comes to having to give the money back, there's going to be a major problem. Something else as well that we need to...
wait a minute. I would have imagined it's more like 15 billion. Surely 330 billion, even at something like 4%, would be bringing in about 15 billion. But still nothing compared to what they're spending.
Yeah. No, they said it was 1.5 million. Apparently, nobody wants to trade on Russian assets. So therefore, they're not getting a lot there. The problem that we also have as well, Lembit, and there is a couple of problems here, the F-16s from Belgium that are going to be the new game changer, as they always are. It's always a new game changing weapon. Going from Belgium to Ukraine will be, it's going to be a great idea. And Belgium have turned around and said they can have all our F-16s, not a problem at all, as soon as the Americans deliver the F-35s, which apparently is going to take 2 years.
This is another question I let go before, but I'll come back to. Why is there no air cover if they've got all these fancy pants planes, the Ukrainians?
Tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it?
I don't get it. Yeah, go on.
The absolute nonsense that they're coming out with, Lembit, is being shown up every single day because obviously, you know, you see what's going on here and you go, it's not a good look, is it? And there's
Yeah,
a couple of
what,
go on, buddy.
I'm sorry, talking over you. I'm just very
Go on,
curious.
bud.
You got my curiosity going here. If if you lose air superiority, if the other side has air superiority, you will lose that war.
Yes.
That's known from World War II onwards. World War II, though interestingly enough, in Vietnam, the Americans had air superiority, but they just couldn't make it work. But under normal circumstances, if you have air superiority and you've got a good ground offensive, that's the game over. So why is it that Ukraine doesn't have air superiority over its own territory?
Yeah, there is, of course, because they don't have anything to be able to fight it off with. It's all been blown up. Have a look at this. This is a 67-year-old man, Lembit.
Руки уберите. У меня все в порядке, мне 67 лет.
Показываем.
У меня нет с собой документов, я с собачкой вышел погулять.
Показываем документ.
Какие документы вам?
Да подождите вы, блядь, ёбаный мать. Ну давайте поговорим. Да я не хочу воевать, блядь. Да понятно.
A 67-year-old man being bundled into a van to go off and die for Ukraine. And of course, the Azov people are not the ones in the front lines. They're the ones sitting behind. And there's even more problems for Ukraine because after a massive order in McEwen, Tennessee, somebody didn't take great care. Massive millions and millions of pound order for 155 millimeter shells for Ukraine. And this is what's happened to the factory.
Is just a total loss.
Well, it only takes a loose spark when you're carrying that much ammunition and gunpowder around, I suppose. But I thought we would show you that just so you could have a look. That was actually making 155 millimeter shells. And they are thinking that they were actually cutting corners on that, and that's why that happened. There is one other thing before we leave Ukraine, Lembit. In 2022, this was the British media before February 2022. We'll go through some of them because Ukraine celebrates Nazi collaborator bans book critical of programs. Ukraine's got a real problem with far-right violence. Hundreds march in Ukraine to annual tribute to Nazi collaborator. Far-right fight for Europe. Nazi symbols, salutes and displays at Ukraine nationalist march. Kiev's far-right groups refuse to disarm. I mean, and the list is endless of reporting like this. Ukraine underplays role of far-right in the conflict. Ukraine conflict, child soldiers join the fight. Who was Stefan Bandera? Nazi symbols everywhere. Not a murmur afterwards.
Well, I wonder why. The mainstream media is clearly suspect. One reason I set up unprecedented, actually, is because the mainstream media is clearly suspect in how obediently and unquestioningly it takes the Western establishment view. He who pays the piper calls the tune. Let's remember, the British Broadcasting Corporation is entirely beholden on the goodwill of the government of the day for its funding arrangement. They're terrified that a chap called Nigel Farage could become prime minister because he said he's going to partly defund the BBC. So they've got this massive survival instinct to say what they're supposed to say. But there's a second problem. These people don't think deeply. Somebody I know describes it as shallow consciousness. They don't really analyze things the way we do here on warrenthornton.com. And they just do the package and move on. And meanwhile, if you want the truth, you have to dig deeper. You have to go to alternative sources. This is why I often say unprecedented TV doesn't want to beat the mainstream media. It wants to be the mainstream media and give people the awkward truth as we see it and leave the public to make their own judgments. But that's not what we have anymore. Imagine having this conversation on the state-sponsored British channel. Oh, you collaborators, you Putin shills. Oh, how dare you talk down the great Vladimir Zelensky and his war effort, his valiant effort to triumph against the evil of the Kremlin.
Evil. Yes.
Evil. Yeah, you can actually see Austin Powers
playing,
yes, you can. Playing Dr. Vladimir Zelensky and all this with my lasers and everything else. And it's preposterous. Anybody who takes death seriously takes Trump's line. Trump's the only world leader who repeatedly talks about the human costs of this war. You don't hear Kaya Kallas or Benz or Macron, who seems more busy trying to prove he's married to a woman than he is trying to generate strategic credibility about his positioning on Ukraine. But they've all gone quiet now.